Wow, now comes the shock. Whoa. Okay, that was... Okay, the awkwardness, I haven't filmed myself in a while because I have pre-recorded so many things and I was actually reluctant to start again, but now I feel like I'm stuck. The Mad Hatter talks, my friend. This is the new hat I crocheted. It's of course a power object. Let me just spare you. There's no mess. There's just a few things because I've actually been training to keep this space clean, which is a hell of a thing. But if I'm stuck, then it starts to show in the space that I occupy, if you want to call it like that. I mean, for you, there's gonna be an insane gap between the last video for 2020 something, but this is not the first video because I have lined out the year already, 2026, and I chose to simply wow, this is an intense moment for me because I literally haven't made any recordings with this camera. Well, it's not that long ago. Literally not that long ago. Holy crap! Sorry, this is like... it's like expanding time. And now it's just crashing down upon me. Holy smokes! I mean, seriously. I have to distance myself a little. This is insane. I mean, I was just in some weird kind of like a movie dream or something. Completely different perception. Also, with and without the camera, I mean, I was struggling hard to finish the recordings for 2025. And then I thought, for at least a year, I'm not gonna make another recording. And now I was being guided that I should continue because it keeps me going. And now just think about it. I think it was in August where I uploaded the last video for 2020. That's impossible. I cannot believe this. Actually, no, I cannot. I cannot because I no longer have the videos on my account, on my hard drive. They're all uploaded to YouTube. Holy smokes! I mean, just think about this. What have I been doing? I mean, I've clearly been traveling in my mind. There is no other way to explain this. Because if I try to put together everything I have done since the moment and the amount of time it took since the moment that I uploaded the last video for 2025, and then try to remember, okay, when did I actually record this? Well, then it was, I thought it was sometime in July. And now it's the 10th of October 2024? This is supposed to be 3 months? Forget it. Because this is more like 10 years, literally. If I take the stuff I went through like the mileage in my mind, the progress that I make, then that's like 10 years. And that's going to drive you insane once you start realizing what relativity really is trying to tell you. And sometimes, I meet someone and he has kind of like gray hair. And then what appears to be 2 weeks later, and I went through all my stuff and 2 weeks turned into an eternity, I go back, I see that person, suddenly they've got white hair. Okay, acceptance. I'm just accepting it then. I feel like I literally travel through time. And whether I do this in my mind or somewhere else, how am I supposed to know this? I mean, haven't you noticed that time is relative? I mean, just the amount, what changed in this apartment just cannot be, like, that can never have been. And even if it were 6 months, it wouldn't add up. Never would it add up. So it truly is that, all this watching movies, and it steals your time, my friend. It literally steals your time. And also spending time with other people that waste time on useless stuff, that's also wasting your time. But it's not just that, it's not just a word, yeah, I'm just wasting time. No, it's literally you're wasting time. I mean, it's not just that you're wasting time, it's also that time just, expands and compresses. Look, it's like a living thing. And try to wrap your mind around that one. I mean, I've just been trying, I'm still trying, I'm writing a book, Maximus Time. And I assume that by the time this video comes online, which is going to be maybe the 5th of January or something, I just created like a periodic cycle. Every Monday there's going to be cooking. Not sure if it's Monday, but... And then, we're going to have... So I'm just going to cycle through a lot of experiences, to experience myself doing yoga classes. And I was really missing the Mad Hatter talks, so I picked up on them again. And now I'm really reluctant to cook. So I said, I'm first going to do this one because it seems the easiest right now. But I'm going to go week per week. Or so I assume. Actually, there are no rules. I can basically do whatever I want. And that's awesome. I mean, I can do a yoga session now, and then I can do one tomorrow. I can do one now, I can do one next week. I'm not sure yet. I'm surely not gonna do yoga sessions every day, but unless I start to like it. And that's the fact, the point of the fact that how could you ever like, let's say, drinking tea if you never drink tea? I mean, you have to get used to this. You don't just have to get used to the drinking of tea. I mean, you have to get used to the way you feel when you drink the tea. Because coffee is clearly a distortion. Yeah, it's just, maybe it's a contortion. It is a disturbance. It is something that turns you into something that is very angry and that just wants war, that kind of stuff. But it's going to get you killed in one way or another. Because if you have no outlet, then who are you going to fight with? So I'm trying to actually teach people to stop drinking coffee. because I believe that this is one of the main reasons why this society is so angry. Because you become like acid. Acid in terms of, you know, you're very sour, and then you are going to be sour like, you know? So it's better to start drinking a bit bitter, reducing the sweet, because the sweet turns sour in the body. Plus it's also something about heat that I have learned, which is why today I did not buy peanut mousse, because peanut mousse is actually quite hot. So if you have too much heat, you're just going to burn out really quickly. And so there are things which I have simply stopped. I have started to stop with certain things. I don't want to sit. I'm actually looking for reasons to stand. You can stand while watching a movie. You can stand while making a recording. It's very hard to stand behind a screen, I feel. Because if I stand like this, I stand different, right? But if you are like this, yeah, it's super easy to just sink into. Yeah, so I have started many things. I have made dream catchers. Please don't jinx them. I don't think you can, but who knows? I have made a lot of jam, but I cannot show you that. This is another dream catcher that I have made. I just took fresh branches from a tree. I asked nicely. I've done this, you know, found a carpet, added this table, this is the chair, where I say, you know, sometimes I sit there and write, because sometimes I do simply not want to stand. Okay, there is nothing. Oh yeah, there is. Yeah, this was necessary, because I was sick of, you know, that people can see you if you get something from the fridge and then you cannot just wear, you know, underwear or something. Yeah, I used, you know, it's not like I dried fly agaric. Been working a bit with that one, but it's hard. Kitchen. Okay, it's a bit messy, so why I didn't want to cook, because I first have to clean. Now this one is our secret. Yeah, the initiates of the flame, cook with gas or on fire. That I just ate. It's melon. Yeah. Okay, this is for the table, because now it's standing on something else. I have added this. The kitchen is of course different. I added this side. I decided to no longer do my dishes in the bathroom, which is why this rack is standing here. I started to ferment vegetables. It's just a salt. You create 20 to 30 grams of salt. You mix it with water. This is the same salt water, garlic, fermenting garlic. 20 to 30 grams of salt go into 1 liter of water, and then you mix it. Like you create some kind of like a vortex until it's all, you know, dissolved. And then you take vegetables, you put it into a big container or also into small jars, depending on how much you want. This is something I found in a Turkish shop. €7.50 for a 5 liter container. I mean, this is a big thing. also big for me in terms of making new experiences, because it often is quite hard. Okay, I don't want to cook now, but I want something. So at least I'm gonna take you along into a ride and then cook later, because the cooking is gonna be the first video of 2025, which is why it needs a bit of preparation. Okay, I have just made small changes here. First of all, since I'm no longer doing the dishes in the bathroom, I started taking cold showers again. Yeah, all my showers are cold. That's what I decided. I have 2 buckets now for collecting water. I have moved the plants here because we're heading towards winter. Plus I want to keep them together and just see how they do in this kind of climate. I feel like it could be nice, which is why the door is actually always closed, to have one room which turns into something like a terrarium or something. And just see also how they keep up the energy. I think this is good for them. I can actually keep them in here and then get other plants, because I'm not sure, I think they're all actually also kind of tropical. This is clearly something more like tropical. I believe this is actually more tropical. This is clearly quite tropical. This is an asparagus, which I also believe to be quite tropical. And this is an avocado. This is a fly trap, just red wine and dishwashing liquid. This is an avocado seed that I made. I mixed it with hummus I made myself. This should go closed. Yeah, this is soap I rarely use. So I just want to see, how this is going to go. Zack. Okay, I have been reading a bit of Hyperion, a book, but I find it hard because I know I've looked at the guy who wrote it, and I have to be honest, I think he's just lacking experiences. Okay, this is my new kitchen hummus container. It's almost full. I've been filling it with lots of also good stuff. I stopped smoking, said I'm gonna devote myself to the yogic path. I feel like I have given up on drinking alcohol, unless I'd be doing really bad. I'd probably reconsider and once in a while drink like a mulled wine. But I feel like it's just like a death trap. I don't really need this. I can make myself teas. And now the question is, what kind of tea do I want to make? Do I want to make myself a tea even? And if I wanted to make myself a tea, would it be then black tea? Would it be something for detox? I mean, everything I drink is actually for detox. I have gotten some sweetwood, where I was thinking I could make myself a tea with that, which would be sweetwood and wow, this is really weird to be filming myself again and then to say, it's the Mad Hatter talks. Okay, let me just quickly just be in here. Okay, these are for dream catchers, which I felt were necessary. I didn't just do them for fun. I made them because I clearly have the feeling that people are still trying to invade my dream. And I simply have to stop them from doing that. Okay, this is really awkward. I felt like I don't want this. I felt like I don't want this. That's just what I just feel like, that I don't want this. So now it's getting complicated. I probably will not stretch out these videos too long. So now I have to think about what I want and what to do with it. Because filming yourself takes a lot of toll, and I simply would like to keep it short. Because I talk already so much for my podcast that what these videos probably should be like, which makes this more like an introduction, are just reminders that there are people who simply work on themselves. And the reason I call this the Mad Hatter Talks is because to some people it seems to be crazy to question, right, the reality you find yourself in, because they're simply too afraid to leave their own bubble. So I've just decided that I will not make these longer than maximum of 30 minutes, where I simply try to whip up, 15 minutes is probably better. It's just going to be hard to get there. So I just had to allow time to, expand and compress itself into the current moment so that I can realize how I actually want to do this. Because I don't want whoever, audiences to feel like they're a part of my life, because they're not, and they never will be. So you will never be a part of my life, and you will never be my friend, and we will never have children, and we will never have, experiences together. This is a complete illusion, You're looking at this because you're too afraid to open up and meet real people, and I absolutely get that. Well, if you are, then I assume that there are certain things that you can do, such as stop touching people. And you're going to realize how such a simple thing is going to become very complicated. Because what are you going to do? You work in a firm, you go somewhere, somebody comes, wants to shake your hand, and you do this. Or you do this. It's going to be confusing. And you have to be certain you want this. Because now you become something that other people know as an untouchable. You may not be completely untouchable. You may spend, you may touch your wife and your children, but you simply decide, everyone else gets nothing from me in terms of physical contact. And so it's not a Mad Hatter talk, but if you come from this society, it seems like it sounds really mad. Because people start becoming very cold once they realize they cannot get stuff from you anymore. And there are people where I simply stopped talking to, or I stopped accepting, their little cookie treats or something. And then you will really see who's actually honest about liking you and who just made it all up. So sometimes what you have to do is you simply have to start testing whoever you meet in your life, and then figure out, how important they are to you and how important you are to them. And that's basically what you need to do to free yourself of people who actually create a lot of disturbances in your life. And that's basically what I wanted to say to you, that, the Mad Hatter Talks are not there to, just make you giggle or, something you can gloat over or something you can have a good time with, you know, I'll open up in my podcast quite a lot. But what this is for, it's more like a reminder that there are people who are way smarter, way more conscious, and way more advanced than you ever dreamed to be. And that's of course also still talking from my perspective, although it's hard to imagine. I mean, I just have I really honed my mind. You know, I cast out anything that became like a cancerous growth in terms of thought patterns, and I simply got rid of that. And some of these things you get rid dietary, which is why reduce sugar until you no longer feel like you need it to live. So make experiences without sugar, like a couple of weeks, and then, you know, treat yourself like a heroin addict would have to treat him or herself to be okay to then live without the heroin. And that's what you have to do with yourself if you came out of this society and you're still really hooked on sugar. And that's what you have to do with alcohol, that's what you have to do with smoking, which is then nicotine, and that's what you have to do with all kinds of things. You simply have to reduce the things that you feel you are addicted on. That counts for pornography, that counts for hugging people, being with people. And then you realize how much of the things you do are also sometimes other people. And that you have to resist other people as well, because other people can get you to do stuff by kind of getting in your mind. So you have to learn to get to know your mind and then distinguish, you know, your way of being from other people's way of being. You know, and then you simply keep practicing. And that sounds really insane. Like really insane. But if I stand here and I'm like this, I'm having a different experience than when I'm holding the camera or when I'm looking into the camera. Hey. Yeah, I'm probably gonna take the time, not in this one, and just take the Mad Hatter talks and just do something else next to it. Because now this year is gonna be cooking, art, yoga and movement, nature, and art. And I have already worked on some of the creations, which are the art recordings, but they took a lot of time for this year. I thought I was loosely working with the elements, but that's going to be a bit hard. I mean, I can, of course, try to... Yeah, that's, I think, what I'm going to do. Because this is now part of water. And I'm still trying to figure out how that works, right? So I may try to include this into these yoga sessions. I'm actually quite sure I will. And then it's gonna be like water. I'm trying to get to that point where I don't talk in these yoga sessions. And that's simply I have to force myself so that I stay focused on the movement and then get into like flow states. But for that I cannot talk. I simply have to keep going. I may say something at the end or the beginning, you know, I'll have to see. But yeah, you never know. I have made this. I found these things. I made this cord by taking two single strings of hemp and weaving them together. A movie I really liked a lot was V for Vendetta, You know, this is, I don't know, I just found these metal things. I drilled a hole through the middle. Now I have this. I like it. Okay, awkwardness. I don't know, I feel okay. I still feel like I can perceive more than what is on the surface. Certain states of consciousness have been intensifying. Like sometimes, you know, I stand here, I look outside, I see the trees, and it's very clear. It's very, you know, I try to blink as little as possible when I stare into nature. I have been a lot inside, so I'm also happy to go outside again, which I will do. I think tomorrow. Today I feel like I have other things to do, so I still have to do a cooking session, but I'm not sure if I want to eat that now. And then later I'll probably get into the yoga, and then I have to do one reading and some kind of an art thing. I feel like it's manageable because for 2025 I did line out the 52 episodes that were once a week. I think it was each Sunday or Monday, I'm not quite sure. And there was always this one big video, and then in between I could just do whatever. And that gave me still a lot of freedom, but I realized I need more restriction. It needs to be a bit more confined. So now I've said it's gonna not be longer than 30 minutes. Well, I should stop now. Then I can maybe do the dishes and then switch to cooking. Because I've been working a lot on my podcast. I really want to reduce the time I speak on YouTube and just show what I'm doing. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of cleansing. I've been drinking this Reusch powder, which is just a really bitter herb powder. And it reminds me a lot of ayahuasca. But you could say it's just cleansing. It's very intense, but I start to like it. I mean, the taste. I'm getting used to the bitter taste, and I like it. It's really nice. So it's written SWERTIA, but basically any really bitter herb mixture stuff, you can go and collect dandelion roots and then ground them into a powder yourself. And then you can mix it with water or make a tea out of it and regularly drink it. And I think probably that's what I am going to figure out. Because I really believe that, you know, the reason why we're also is because of this imbalance also in the diet, that we're simply missing the bitter. And that we need to simply take responsibility and start seeing what is, and then realizing what we really need, instead of always running after the things that we were just told, yeah, you'll need that, right? Or that we just get for the opinions and the self-image. So that's what we need to stop. To do things for our self-image, which is why I clearly see that there are certain people that should never post online, because it gets to their heads. They start feeling like, oh, you know, then you start feeling like you're the best guy in the world, which is why you stay grounded, which is why I walk barefoot and I basically sleep on the ground. mean, you've seen my bed, it's like 2 centimeters thick. But that in itself probably wouldn't be enough. I mean, I'm trying to survive another winter without the heater. I'm not gonna be super strict, but I rather embrace the cold than trying to keep it out or trying to wiggle out of it like a slimy eel. And I can clearly see that if I turn on the heater, that the energy, the quality of the energy in here changes because, I mean, let's face it, no matter how you are heating your apartment, it's kind of like dirty energy. And that's a fact. I mean, fire is different, of course, but if you heat with oil, I feel like it's very bad for the energy. I mean, if you've ever experienced a winter without heat, artificial heat, and you start embracing the cold, I mean, that can be like the most liberating thing in the world, because it's going to have an impact on a lot of things in your life. Like, you're going to have more energy to do other things, because you don't have to work extra hard so you can, you know, face winter. No, you're just going to have breathing methods. You're just going to turn your own apartment into an ashram. And you're just going to get rid of, you know, maybe even the access to internet. Or maybe simply wow. Yeah, I'm getting ready for yoga. I mean, Jesus. Yeah. Okay, so I have stopped drinking coffee. I found that it was no longer conducive to my way of life, because tea seems to be a much better, partner. Because coffee really deteriorates everything. It's too acidic. You know, tea has a lot of bitter herbs, bitter stuff also in it. And coffee is just like this really acidic, like a charred thing. And tea is just being dried. But coffee is really like charred stuff. It's very bad. I mean, I used it for some time and I felt like it pushed me. But, I mean, when you start having problems with your teeth, whether you hide it or not, that's usually a sign for also spiritual deterioration. And so one thing for me is also to show what kind of stability you can gain in your life if you start standing more, if you start walking more barefoot, if you simply start growing spiritually and then getting used to new heights. For a tree grows quite fast until the tree has a certain height, and then once he has reached that height, you know, then he's looking for width. So I believe you as a human being cannot grow indefinitely. There's a certain limit. Why, you know, because the more you grow, the harder it will get. And sometimes you just have to start spreading out like branches and then protect the young ones underneath you, you know. So here's your reason for growing. You're gonna be casting shadows, but not to keep people in the dark, but just to protect them, maybe from too much light. And that is basically also the light of attention. You know, because if I would take you now the way you are, you know, and I would simply throw you onto a stage, you know, they would take you apart. And then, you know, all this attention would go to your head and you'd be like, oh, I'm the best guy in the world. And then you would live like this and you would realize how many pitfalls there are, how many traps, how many, you know, how much viciousness the world has in store for a little seedling, you know, that thought he could, you know, battle the storm or something. So it's actually, I mean, such things are really hard to control. But to me, it always felt like there are certain ways in life that one has to be careful with. And that's like the rock and roll kind of like life. You know, I'll rather live like an adventurer who embraces life and, you know, he also learns from it. So you can keep drinking just to drink, or you can, let's say, drink to see what it's about. And you never forget that that's why you're drinking. You're not drinking to drink, you're drinking to see what this actually does and to understand why people are drinking. That's different. Because then you can stop, because you know why you've been drinking. Because you wanted to see how far it can get you, and you realize it never gets you further, you know, than the first time probably. And that's what anyone who ever had a one-night stand will realize, that, you know, having sex on alcohol is incredibly easy, you know, and you can really let loose and be like, oh yeah, you know, I can really be myself. Yeah, because you numbed the pain. But it's about being together and in love with the pain, which is why yogis are often like, they always seem a bit maybe suicidal, or like they've gone through intense suffering, which is also mental torture and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like pressure. I often feel like I'm being, you know, hit with needles from outside. There is like some kind of a pain going on, also emotional. But I started to simply breathe through it. And so yoga is, you know, it's okay, it's about staying in flow. But a river isn't always gentle, you know, and sometimes you'll, you know, maybe the river flows through Mordor or something. So it's like you're surfing the wave of time or something. And it's just like, shh, yeah. But sometimes you'll fall off, or you'll see something like, oh, what's that? You know, and you'll join a caravan or something. And then you'll be like through the desert, and then the wave is back. I don't know, and maybe the caravan is part of the wave, or it's more like a sidearm. You know, maybe you don't want to always be on the main thing. I don't know, I just feel when I stand here, it's like time flowing. There's like stuff flowing around me. Like there's stuff happening also in relation to others. You know, and sometimes somebody tries to like break me. You know, I've had these tests where I was being tested, you know, to get me to, let's say, just choose weakness, you know. I had this a couple of times, you know, like go to the store and buy alcohol. Yeah, I did it a couple of times, and then I said, maybe not. Maybe not. Like just for now, maybe not. And that then became the starting point of Christopher, who said, okay, I think I can continue. I think I got the message with the alcohol. I think it's not necessary unless you wanted to forget. But it's better to remember and to take responsibility and then simply be there and fully present. It's better to heal and to hear than to numb the pain. I still eat a lot, which I'm not sure I do for grounding or because I need energy, or whether I eat because I'm burned out or just because I'm bored. I felt like I could have continued eating and it would have been just a distraction. Because what I felt like I should do was stand here and record this video, so I can move on with YouTube. But if you would ask me, why do you do all of this now? Then all I can say is, well, I don't know. Because I feel like that I will have other things to do. But I said that already in 2024, when I finalized 2025. I said, and now I'm again in the same position, finishing off 2026, and I'm still alone in this apartment. And I'm just not sure how long it's going to be like this. So I often feel reluctant to continue because I think, something is missing. Then I realized, well, the only thing that was missing was the motivation to push through. And then maybe you need some kind of a motivation or like a pick-me-up. And then you simply start. And then you realize, well, I cannot continue with coffee. Well, that's going to be hard. So I drank coffee until I really felt like a last time. Because I think coffee is responsible for a lot of the stuff that is happening in the society. Because the insight I got out of coffee was that it kind of splits your soul, and that creates friction. And from that friction, you work yourself to the grave. So instead, you could just be making love to your wife and just be happy, but the industry doesn't want you to be happy. And I'd say neither does the state, because they make money with your unhappiness, because they try to sell you things and make it look like that's what you need. But what you need is time to heal, time to contemplate, and time to sit and feel what you actually need. But they don't want you to have that time, because if you do that, you'd stop wasting your time on useless junk that you don't need. Because I don't have to go to Las Vegas to gamble. I can just sit around and play games. Because in the end, anything's a gamble. That can be like super easy games you play, and you think, we're just playing a game, but you're actually playing for time. Because that's the only thing you really have, That's the only thing you really have. You've got time. You've got nothing else. And then the question is how you're going to spend the time. And with who are you going to spend the time? And how long are you going to continue to do the same dead-end stuff? You go to the cinema, you watch one movie, and then you go and watch another, and then you go and watch another. How many do you need? Well, is the answer then until it's enough? Do you go and watch movies to gather information? Or do you go and watch movies to... what's your reason for watching movies? Do you want truth or do you want to be distracted? That's a very valid point. The other night I saw like a reflection of myself in the window, and I saw like the reflection had like white lights instead of eyes. And I thought, is this how some people see me? Are these like the eyes of a prophet? Am I making fun of myself? well, what are prophets? And then I looked it up. Well, it basically described what I'm doing. It's like telling people their way back into feeling like, you know, connected. But people don't really want that, you know, and don't patronize me or something. Now, I'm not your messiah, I'm not your savior. I'm just one guy who really feels what he's talking about and who really does the things and who really went to the edge and brought something back with him. And whatever that is clearly something that's like beating inside of here. And that's what I'm trying to express to people, because that is what we clearly need in these times. We just need some people who start to deconfuse the hive so that people can slow down a little, learn to go without coffee, so they understand that it's not them. It's just that they drink coffee and it just steals their time and they just let it flow into large corporations that suck dry the earth, and they don't even realize that. That's just really tough. So yeah, it's all about hardening. That's what yoga is about. It's about hardening so that truth can flow through you and you can have a realization or an insight. So to me, it's also not that bad to stand here and record myself, because first of all, I'm having a conversation. I'm learning to communicate better. I get to take different perspectives on what is happening from the observer's mind, you know, including observing myself in the life of a content creator. And then I can, you know, zoom in and out. And now the question is, why don't I want to cook? I think I want to cook. I actually ate so much that I'm not hungry. And I feel like I would like to do all kinds of other things. Like, I'd rather do this, I'd rather do that. But none of that is ever really happening. So I have to work with what I actually have, you know? And what I have at the moment is time. Now I have to fill it with something. And what do I fill it with? Well, with content that helps me to grow, with people that help me to grow. But if I have grown enough, then the people that help me to grow possibly fall away, and then, you know, I'm here to help others grow. So I think for some time, when you're trying to get out of this, like the debris of life or something, like the undergrowth, you want to grow out of that, I think you have to put in a lot of effort into selfish growth. Like a sapling cannot support another sapling. You have to do your own growth. And when you have grown enough and suffered enough, and enough has fallen away, right, and you left people behind, and you're growing into a fine young tree, well, then you first need to, and then you start picking up a little bit of responsibility. But your goal should be to be stable. And then you have to see who in your surroundings actually really needs to lean on you, but also who your responsibility is. Who is your responsibility? I mean, while you're giving a talk like this, I'm constantly in the focus. I'm not sure if you get this, which is why I'm actually not focusing on anything I see here. This is like Lyra reading the alethiometer, which is being described in well, I haven't really done this in a while, because I rarely do this unless there's either a camera running or there's someone else in the room. But I have been doing a lot of training. I've done a couple of these 30-kilometer hikes. I have done a lot of standing. I have done some craftsmanship. I've been crafting some stuff. Yeah, like I crocheted a hat. I've been doing a lot of cooking. I've carried a lot of stuff, including emotional stuff. I have worked with concepts of diet and mind. So I have grown here. I've also grown. But I've basically been doing a lot of focus exercises. And since I have continued with my podcast for 2026, most of these episodes turned out to be 2 hours long from now. I have also made a lot of experiences in that field. In between, I have smoked cigarillos. But then I stopped and gave it up because it once more turned into what I felt like just a tool for splitting and for more distance, while I actually want the embrace and the getting together, which is why, yes, I'm still rooting for that woman, no matter how infuriating she may be, right? Because what I think annoys you the most in any kind of relationship is the fact that you cannot control the other one. And then you realize, well, I'd also not want to, but I'd want them to also pay attention, that this is like, it cannot be just a selfish thing. I mean, if you're a man and she's a woman and you'll be together, then you have to pay attention to each other. There is no point to just do this like a selfish trip, because if you want that, well, then do it on your own and then be treated accordingly. You'll use others because you're selfish, you'll just take it for yourself, well, then be used. Because that's the law of attraction. If you use, you'll be used. And that's simply what you have to start changing for yourself. You have to stop using people, or you have to tell them to stop using you. And the only way you'll be able to do that is by setting very firm boundaries. So I have stopped shaking hands, Good day, sir. It's like, no more shaking hands. It's like, good day. And I'll skip the good day, I'll just do this. And that's then something you can, you'll just see how hard it is. It's not going to be that much longer. You'll see how hard it is. I mean, I have had a appearance on, there was like a reward for something I handed in. Just like some kind of like an art contest. But it was basically just a picture of making apple mousse. It was for sustainability and saying, we have to use the resources that we have. Wow. No, that's stuck. Interesting. Whether that is still recording. Well, I'll just see it as a sign. I think this episode is long enough. Okay. If you want more in-depth stuff, there are plenty of recordings on this channel already. Plus, my podcast, is, I find, much more intense. So I just wanted to inform you that this is basically what I'm doing in my podcast. And that's all I gotta say then. And then I'll think about topics for the Mad Hatter Talks. I'll probably keep them 15 to maximum 30 minutes. I just have to pin myself down to simply compress it. And then if you want more, longer stuff, because channeling yourself into a camera is much harder work than just with a microphone. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say. You just have to take what is being given. If you want more, do it yourself, because I cannot give you life. I cannot give you experiences. I can only show you that's basically what I'm doing. And now I'm kind of going to be stuck at that, right? Until I change something. But certain things, I'll always have. Certain methods like breath work, going hiking, standing tall, standing strong, at some point it just happens by itself. Taking cold showers, even in winter, and then just pushing through. Seeing life like the ultimate challenge and testing your strength as a warrior. And for anyone who doesn't like to listen, I've written books, I've made music, and there's a lot of podcasts. Cheers.